Hello, welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to be integrating Microsoft Azure with Essential Cloud. Essential Cloud is our enterprise architecture platform, while Microsoft Azure is acting like our data source, our primary source of truth, where we feed into our enterprise architecture repository. So let me share my screen. Yeah, so you might be asking what makes this video different from the two previous videos that I did. The major difference is that in this video, the entire process of bearer authentication, generation of our bearer token, will be added as part of our workflow rather than me generating the bearer token from elsewhere and slotting it into our steps. In this video, we are going to be our steps and our processes, our workflow will be generating the bearer token by itself. So the first thing I will do, so one of the prerequisites you need to have is that you should have your database ready. So this is Logic App. I'm going to create a new Logic App now. You can choose whatever pricing model works for you. I'm going with consumption because it's a lot cheaper. Okay, so um my resource group, I'll give it a name. All this frankly free. Let me confirm the resource group I used for the previous ones. I want to use the same resource group. Yeah, Azure Logic App. So that makes sense. Going to South Africa, stateful, and we are good. So I'm creating the Logic App now. Um, while this is ongoing, so I have an architecture that captures what we are going to be doing. I think I showed you in the first video, but I'll just show it to you again while this is being created. Okay, so let me, yeah, so let's go back. Oh, I haven't clicked on create, so I'll do that now. So I'm creating the Logic app now. While this is ongoing, let me, oh, it's very fast, so that's good. So one thing you should take note of here is you can see the run history and your trigger history and metrics. So when you start to um, have run your workflows and your logic applications, these are some very key features that can come in handy, especially when you are debugging stuff. So I'll come to Logic App Designer. The first trigger we are going to add, we need to add a trigger. Yeah, obviously. Um, in this case, because I am not allowing the database to detect the change and start and send the trigger, we'll be using scheduling recurrence instead of the create an item that we did in the first video. So I'll come over to schedule, then recurrence, and I'll pick, just change this to 3 days, even though I won't really use it. Yeah, so think this is good. Let me save because I'll run it manually. So what this means is that every 3 days is going to um, check to see if the is going to synchronize the data source with the enterprise architecture repository. So let me save. So the next thing we need to do now is our bearer authentication. Our bearer authentication. So we don't want to be copying and pasting our bearer token. We want to add it to our workflow. So I would add a new step, action, HTTP. Then let me fetch the login, the token URI. Just give me a moment to copy it. Yeah. Am I sharing my screen? Oh, I hope I'm sharing my screen. Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Okay, so the URI, then the post requests. Just to be sure, let me stop sharing and reshare. Okay, I think I'm sharing my screen, so I can go ahead. Then headers, I'll just copy them and paste them. Start with application/JSON, content type, API key. Um, Let me confirm I'm not missing any of the headers. Okay, so that's it. So let's copy applications like JSON. So for my API key, I'll copy it when I'm not sharing my screen. Then I want to go to the body and I will just allow you to see the structure. Let me see if I can get some fake content for the body. So usually what you are meant to do is to use Azure key vaults for the body. Yeah, you are meant to use Azure key vault because you should not be out coding passwords in clear text. But I mean, because of my time, I just ignored that. But you should use Azure key vault. So this is what it should look like. So you replace the username in braces and the PWD in braces with your actual username and password. So I'll stop sharing my screen now and I would add my API key as well as my username and password. So while I'm doing that, let me just share the architecture for you so that you just be looking at it while I am. So this is the summary of what we are going to be doing. So you can, if you are someone that loves architecture, you can try to understand that. So I'm copying the API key now, even though you can't see it. Then also going to copy my username and my password. Username, then my password now. As I always say, I trust human beings. So even if you see my API key or you see my username and my password, I'm pretty confident that you're not going to use it for anything malicious. I trust everyone in the world, so there's not going to be any issue. But I just feel like following this practice, at least in this dimension. Okay, so let me um stop sharing and I'll share my browser now. Let me share my browser. Okay, so we've added our first HTTP trigger, which is for um to get our token. We're trying to get our token. So the next thing we are going to be doing is that we are going to be adding past JSON action. And the reason we are doing that is that I want to be able to extract our bearer token from the response that we'll be getting from that HTTP request. Okay, so I come over to add a new step, add an action, pass JSON, then under my schema, what I will do is I will use a sample payload to generate the schema. So I'll just go and copy a sample payload so that the logic app will know the structure and be able to generate a schema for me. I think I have a valid, not valid, but yeah. So I'll copy this, I'll paste it here. You can see bear token, refresh token, expires, then done. Then automatically the schema will be generated. So with this now, I'll be able to use this bear token property, or should I call it an object, in the next step that I'll be creating. So under here, we want to reference the body because it's from the body that the response body that we are getting this. So the body, yeah, so that's for the pass JSON. So I'll save this and we are going to be adding another step again. Okay. This time around, we'll be adding a step for I want to execute an SQL query that will be able to retrieve the data that we want to use to update our essential cloud repository. Okay, so I would click to add a new step, add an action, then I'll just search for my SQL. Then this SQL, but what we want is MySQL. So I'll scroll down and I'll pick execute in my SQL query, you can see there are many options here. It depends on your need and how you want to update your repository. You can choose the one that is most appropriate. But because this is just a demo, I'm just going with execution of a SQL query, of an SQL query rather. So name of my SQL server, I'm using the same database I used in the first two videos. Then the database name is still here. I think our connection is still active. Then I'll come to advanced parameters. I'll choose query because I want to enter an SQL query. Automatically, it will give me an option for query so that I can enter my query. Then I would enter my query here. So let me just pick a query that I will be using. Um, just copy and paste a query. Okay, so I think I can use this. So let me copy and I'll paste this here. Yeah, so I'll just change this to where ID is 2. I used this in um before I started this video. And I'll change the name of the table. This was a former table I had I'll change it to the one I'm using online. Let me get the table name. Okay, the table name is Frankly Table. So I'll paste the table, Frankly Table, where it is equals to 2. So I just want to fetch the second row in this case, just for demonstration purpose. So I think this is fine. Yeah, this is fine. So I'll save this. Okay. So the next thing we now need to do is after executing our query, so we now need to transform the result of that query into something that our essential cloud will understand. But before we do that, I want us to kind of like um, have a schema for the structure of our results. And for us to be able to see that clearly, what I will do is um, I will run our current workflow so that I will see the result of the query. Then I will use that to form my schema. I will now use pass JSON again. I know by the time you see it happen, you understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So if you already understand the structure of your database, you might not need to do this. But I'm assuming that we do not have the structure that we want to be certain that our schema is accurate. So I will run this. Hopefully we are not going to have any issue. I believe everything is fine. Okay, let me run this. Okay, so let's go to our run history now. Hopefully it will be succeeded. So I'm only running the generation of BR token, passing JSON, then execution of SQL query. So you can see it is succeeded. So let's go in here and I'll scroll down to execution of SQL query. That's what I'm interested in. So I want to see the output. I'll copy the array or the object. Yes, this is what so you can see it as fetch this. So I'll copy this under result sets. I'll copy it because we are going to be using this for our schema. So I'll go back here. Now we are going to add a new step. We are going to add a new step for pass JSON again. Okay. So over here, we can add the result sets. It's not query result, it's result set. So not query result, result sets. Because query result is just the output of our query, but we're interested in that object, that array. Then for the schema, if you are sure of the schema, then you can just enter your schema directly. But because I'm a perfectionist, I'll go to use sample payload to generate schema. I will paste that what I copied. Then I will have a perfect schema here that I know is very accurate. Okay. So I'll save this. So you can also rename all of this. So you can see you can rename it. But because I'm just trying to be fast. That's why I'm not renaming them. So I've saved that now. So now we have our clear execution of our SQL query and we understand the kind of response, the kind of output that we are going to be getting. So now we can add our compose action. So compose is when we transform our data, our result from the execution of the SQL query into a format that Essential Cloud understands. So I will add a new step, add an action, data operations, compose. Okay. So I'll just copy a compose action here. Let me copy one that looks very simple. Okay, let me still use the class composite application provider just so that we'll be able to follow through. So I'll paste this and for the name will be fetched from the SQL query. So the reason why I added the schema is that so that we'll be able to use the schema to be able to dynamically add content here. So you can see that under this part JSON, you can see body name. So we can add the body name as the name because this is from the schema. Then we come over here so let me just change this to CHW, I don't know. And for the description, we'll just dynamically use what we fetch from our database as well. Pick description. Take note that this is a for each loop it's okay, because it's the result is an array and our compose is in the for each loop. Okay. So you can see this is for each, but this is just an item description. But because it's within this loop, it will only execute within that loop. Okay. So we can save this. I think this is good. We can save this. Now we are going to add our HTTP trigger that will actually submit the data into our essential repository. And this is where people make mistake. It needs to be inside the loop as well, not outside, inside. Because if it's outside, then it's not going to be able to access the content of the compose and as it should because it's within a loop. Yeah. So we come to HTTP, we come to HTTP. Yeah. So now I'm going to get the endpoint for the data we want to submit. So let me just go and fetch it. I'll paste it now. Um, Where's my endpoint? Okay, I've seen it. Think I've seen it. Okay, so this is the endpoint, the URI. Then the method is post because we are submitting the headers, content type. Let me fetch that. Here's my content type. Yeah, content type applications are JSON. Then the API key. We also need to add the API key to this request as well. So I will add it when I stop sharing my screen. So I think that's fine. Just content type and API key. Then authorization, yes. I don't want to type. Let me copy and paste. Authorization. Now, this is the interesting part. In our previous videos, when we use authorization and we added bearer, then we pasted the bearer token here. But in this case, because we are doing it we've added the generation of bearer token to our workflow, we can just reference it by coming over here and selecting bearer token from this pass token here. That's why we added this pass token. So click on body bearer token, and our bearer token will be referenced here. So we don't need to be copying and pasting it after every 5 minutes or using refresh token so often. Then for the body is where we should have our content, right? The content to that I want to submit from compose. So we go to output, put this output here. Yeah, so I think we are good. The only thing I will just add is I'll stop sharing and I will add the API key. Yeah, so I think everything is looking great. Everything is looking fine. Okay, let me stop sharing and I will share my architecture again so that you'll be looking at it while I'm pasting the bearer token. No, while I'm pasting the API key rather. Copying the API key now and I'm pasting it. Hopefully you can't see my screen. Okay, so I've pasted it now. Okay, so let me reshare. I've pasted the API key. Okay, so let me save this. So I think we are good. So I think I can run my application now. And hopefully will get succeeded. Yeah, so let me close this. So you can see this is our workflow. We start by um, setting up our recurrence trigger that we scheduled to run every 3 days, but I can run it manually at any time, but it's scheduled to run every 3 days. And when it runs, what happens is that it sends an API request that will generate a token, a bearer token. And you saw that the grant type was password, there was a username, and the likes. So we now pass the response so that we can be able to extract the bearer token from the response. Then we if that is successful, then we move to the next step. We execute a MySQL query, and this MySQL query is executed based on the connection, the SQL connection that we created. Okay. Then we now pass the SQL query so that we'll know how the response will be, the schema of the response. Then we now um, have our compose. Compose is formatting um our the content of our database into a format that can be submitted to Essential Cloud. Okay. Then we now send another HTTP trigger that uses the bearer token from this first pass JSON to submit that request. Okay. So let me run. I'm hopeful there wouldn't be any issue. So let me come to run history first. Let me close all of this. So these are run history. If I should refresh, we have just two. So I will run it now. I'm running it. So if I should refresh now, we would be able to see if it was succeeded or not. And this works automatically. It's very fast. It's automated. And this is really how your enterprise architecture should be working. It succeeded. You can see very easy, very straightforward. If I should click over here, you are going to see that we are going to get out a response that contains the store, if it was submitted, if it was approved, the account that did the change and things like that. So if I should expand on this, and I hope I'm sharing my browser right now, and I click over to this, I can see the response. If I should scroll down, I just want you to see the output, the body. Yeah, so you can see ID name. So this tells you that you can see testing frankly to TW, THW, which I added as the short name. And you can see that is my email that's last modified by, created by, and the likes. So you can see that it actually works. Okay. And if I should go through all of this, the reason I'm not scrolling through everything is I do not want you to see my the API key and the bearer token and things like that, because those are added as parameters in the request. But from all this mark, you can see that it works. If I should go to my Essential Cloud now from the browser and I try to log in and I search, you'll see that we are going to find it in our Essential Cloud. I think let me just do that very quickly before we end this. Okay. So let me go to capture. So let me get the name of what we added. So I'll come over to compose. Oh, I'll come over to compose. You can see the short name is THW. The name is fetched from the database. Okay, so I can get it from um, execute in my SQL query. What's wrong with my mouse? Oh, I didn't want you to see my BR token. My mouse is just, yeah, so this is what I wanted. So you can see the name Franklin name 2. If I should search here, you see Franklin name 2. You can see it here, Franklin name 2. And just for you to see that the short name, which is not even part of the what was in my database, was actually added. If we should go to short name, you see THW posts is the short name. Let's look for a short name. Yeah, you can see short name THW posts. So I hope that you find this video useful. I hope you enjoy it. Um, so basically, what we've just done is that we've set a pipeline. We've been able to integrate our Azure database to our Essential Cloud. What I'll be doing in my next video is I'll be integrating ServiceNow. ServiceNow is an IT service management platform, a very popular one at that. We are going to be integrating it to our Essential Cloud. So it's not uncommon for organizations to have their data across various channels. So you can have some data in your CMDB, have some data in your asset management platform, have some data in your from your actual applications like application hosted on Azure, your web apps and things like that. Okay. So if you find this video insightful, don't hesitate to like, share, and subscribe. Have a wonderful day.